It's time to take chances, make mistakes, get messy. This is Vaguely Scientific. According to my research, I am Derek. And we never used to have Jim at my old school. Hi, Jim.
I mean, that may not be true necessarily.
You definitely have been to every school I've attended.
Yeah.
And come on, you Weasley wimps. Justin is joining us today. Hi, Justin.
Hello.
Hello. And please let this be a normal field trip. With Aly? No way! Hello, Aly.
Hello, I will never let anything be normal.
Never let everything be normal. Which is why we have you on this show, the show where listeners send in questions to hear our vaguely scientific answers, and who knows, we might even get some of those answers right. But first, it's time for Jim's fun science fact of the day. Jim?
All right. I've been reading loads of books about narwhals, so I figure I'd just bring this up. The tusk on a narwhal is actually a highly specialized tooth that just grows right out from its upper jaw, straight through the lip.
That sounds unpleasant.
I did know that, actually.
It does sound unpleasant, actually.
That is a fact that's in a lot of kids' books, actually.
Yeah. We have way more narwhal books than I would expect them to have published.
Yeah.
That's like body horror in a kid's book that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah.
There is an episode of The Simpsons where Homer loses his health insurance or his dental insurance, and a dentist is showing pictures of Lisa in a sensationalized idea to basically frighten them about what'll happen if she grows up without braces.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets worse and worse to the point where it depicts her teeth growing through her face.
Oh.
I remember that.
And I remember being very off-put by that.
Yeah.
I know that, like, narwhal tusks were, and it's specifically one of their front teeth, if I remember correctly. It's like the other one doesn't do that. Only one of them does.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Those old, like, curio cabinets, like those cabinets of curiosity, people used to get narwhal tusks and then tell people they were unicorn horns. Like, that's where they came from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I believe that.
Now they just carve them out of sticks.
I also think this is kind of off topic, and I'm sorry. It's happening. It's happening already. There's like a hog of some sort that its tusks will continue to grow up and back, and eventually it can literally like grow its tusk into its brain.
Oh no!
So like teeth are not okay. Actually.
No. Has anyone checked on the teeth lately?
I mean, hopefully you're a dentist, but I mean,
honestly, too long ago.
I think by the time this episode comes out, I will have gone to the dentist, so hopefully they don't find anything wrong.
Well,
okay.
Hopefully I'm not secretly a narwhal.
that would probably be for the best.
You've been lying to us all along, Jim.
Yeah.
About that and many other things.
So true.
So we probably should move on, but before we get into our first question for this episode, we do have a little housekeeping in everyone's favorite segment, stuff we got wrong and actually bothered to look up later.
Yay.
In episode 156, I had mentioned that horses and their relatives are technically pachyderms, and apparently, this order of mammals is no longer in use, and various groups contained within have been shuffled off to other orders. Horses, donkeys, and zebras are now in the order Perissodactyla, which are the odd-toed ungulates. They share this order with rhinoceroses and tapirs.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because I had no idea that they had gotten rid of pachyderms.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's brand new information to me. I've been citing that because I always thought it was interesting that whenever people say pachyderm, like just in passing, they're usually just talking about elephants.
Yeah.
And so I always was like, well, what else is a pachyderm? And apparently not horses anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently nothing.
Apparently
yeah,
nothing.
True.
Apparently it's just elephants.
When I looked it up, Wikipedia's first entry is any of the Pachydermata, the obsolete 19th century taxidermic order. So
there just isn't pachyderms anymore.
I guess not.
What's an elephant then?
What's an elephant?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's an elephant. I forget.
It's going to say pachyderm, and I'm going to leave this call.
Oh, yeah. The order is
Proboscia.
Wow, thank you. I
Because
couldn't
of the
get past the
trunk.
proboscis part.
Proboscidae.
Proboscidae.
Proboscidae. Proboscidae.
Or
Yeah,
proboscidae.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not pachyderm. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
And yet tapirs are not in that.
Yeah. Well, they must be
Interesting.
more closely related to, because what is it? Hold on. I'm going to click on this link and we're going to see.
Oh boy, Jim's going to get a virus.
Anteaters. Oh no.
It's Wikipedia. I
Don't click
hope
on-
not.
Don't click on links. That's the worst thing you can do.
Oh, interesting. So I think only elephants are in the proboscidae.
Oh, well, they might as well be pachyderms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right?
so stupid. Okay.
Bye, Aly.
Here you go. Thanks to genetic studies, elephants, rhinoceroses, tapirs, and hippopotamuses are classified as separate clades altogether. Rhinos, hippos, pigs, peccaries, horses, zebras, donkeys, and tapirs are classified in the Loris Dithera, while elephants, hyraxes, manatees, and dugongs are classified in the Afrothera.
Elephants and dugongs?
What is a
Wow.
dugong?
Dugong is like a manatee,
I can
but
see
in
that.
Asia.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Okay.
Not the
I'm a
Pokemon.
fan.
And
Get behind
elephant
this.
seals that have the...
God, it really
I don't
does
know.
look like a man. Are you sure it's not just a manatee?
It literally is a
No,
manatee, but in
it's-
a different part of the world.
Yeah.
It's an evolved seal.
Yeah.
It's a Pokemon joke.
Yeah.
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 I literally just said not the Pokemon.
Did you? I didn't hear you. There's 4 people on this call,
That's
Jim.
right. Yeah, good point.
Also, I did not know what a Hyrax was
It's a
until
little mouse.
just this second. He's a little mouse guy.
Oh, I've seen those.
I
Yeah.
wonder if
are-
elephants are afraid of Hyraxes.
They're like little roly-polies. Like, they're like
Oh.
little balls of fluff.
Speaking of question number 1, why don't we talk about question number 1?
Oh.
I love that.
Oh, I'm great at this.
What a good show.
Question 1 this week is: what if everyone had a personal weather forecast tailored to their mood? How would this affect people's daily lives?
I think my first question about this question is how localized is the personalized weather that we're going to be getting?
I want to go even more nitpicky than you, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say everyone already has a personal weather forecast tailored to their mood. It's called a horoscope.
Oh, no. Now it's your turn that you should leave.
I did not think we were going in this direction, and I'm really disappointed in you, Derek.
Why?
It's a science show.
Vaguely.
Ah.
Well, weather forecasting is a science, and it's about fortune telling. So there.
One of those
You
things is
know
not
what?
science, Derek.
I was leaning on Justin's side, but I'm back on Derek's side, actually. Because the weather is always made up. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they can make sweeping predictions, but in the summer, I'm always getting like, ooh, thunderstorm alert, and it just
Yeah.
won't rain for like weeks.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's the potential for that to happen, but it's the year of our Lord 2024. We can't nail this down a little bit better. And then there was that the tornado that touched down recently that they literally didn't detect until it had formed and touched down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have a discussion with you currently that I've had with 100 other people who keep telling me that because I'm a Pisces, yada yada yada. And it's that one
You
of
are
these
a Pisces.
Well, let me
Sorry,
Let
go
me
ahead, Kyle.
let me finish my point, because I feel like Justin is interpreting this as if I am suggesting the horoscopes are accurate. Whereas my ultimate point was, you do have a horoscope every single day, and that does not affect you in any way.
Okay, I'm back on Derek's side.
Mhm.
Except for if you have some kind of psychological, like if you read it and it puts you in a good mood, that will affect you.
Right.
So I didn't mean to derail entirely, because I'm pretty sure that the question, or at least I interpreted the question as saying, what if just weather was affected by your mood?
Yeah, same. Which I'm curious, that wraps back around to my initial question. Like, you go outside and there's like a 3 foot by 3 foot cloud above you or something. Like, how does it?
Right.
I'm envisioning an Encanto situation
Okay.
with how like all of her moods create different types of weather.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking.
How strong her emotion is kind of dictates how big the event
Yeah.
is.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said Encanto, because the first movie that I thought of was Men in Black 2, and I've been angry all day.
I don't remember anything about Men in Black 2 except the big plant eating the subway. That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah,
about
the only
movie.
thing relevant about it is there's something about the girl who is like the lost alien princess or whatever.
Is that Rosario Dawson?
Maybe? I don't remember. I just remember when she is sad, it rains.
That's right.
And I'm like, this went from which that inherently wouldn't make me upset, but it went from like fairly hard sci-fi to just kind of like very, very fantastical. And I was like, tonal shift. And like, if you story about a wizard or something who makes it rain when they cry, like I'm fine with, but Men in Black?
Mm.
So fun fact, that is Rosario Dawson.
Oh.
You just like jolted my memory. Because yeah, like as soon as you said that alien princess, that's exactly what I was like, oh yeah, she makes it rain.
Yeah.
What's the range on that though? Like, does she make it rain everywhere, or just
I mean,
within
good
like
question.
a couple miles?
There is in Super Mario RPG, one of the characters is able to make it rain for like a whole town, basically. He's a little cloud guy, and whenever he gets sad, it starts to rain, and like whatever map you're on, it's just like the whole city.
I also want to ask another kind of follow-up question is like, is this consistent for each person? For example, I am often put in the position where like I enjoy rain.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask this too.
And okay. And when people have whenever I said, oh, I love that it's raining, people have said, why are you such a downer? And I'm like, I don't think I'm the one being a downer. I think I'm enjoying the weather. But like, if I'm happy and that makes it rain, is that going to make everybody else upset? And then if they're being upset that it's raining, is it going to stop raining, or is it going to rain more? This,
It's funny because I know a lot of people who are like really get kind of depressed whenever summer hits.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're like, ew, it's hot. It's bright outside all the time. It's gross. Like, they're kind of like me. They're like really big fall people. And they're like, I can't wait till it gets cold outside. And my wife's the same way. She likes the rain. And I think like there's this idea of traditionally like people associate emotion with weather. They're like, oh,
right.
we use it in language. I know I just like talked about the way we feel as a non-scientific thing, but there's a whole section of psychology that talks about emotions, right?
It's almost as if there's nuance to the dichotomy you set forth.
Exactly, but who are we? But yeah, like even it's reflective in language, right? We say, oh, like you look sunny today. That means happy. You're like, you know what I mean when I say someone looks sunny. Or like, oh, like, Aly looks really dreary today. Well, that's a descriptor that we use for like foggy, dark weather. And
I usually do.
It's creeped its way into our lexicon.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a culturally accepted kind of position, even though a lot of people disagree with it,
I have a curiosity, and that's, I wonder if this is an English language thing. I mean, I'm only an English speaker. I can't speak for other like language dichotomies of like, what do they use similar like adjectives when describing people? Like, is it correlated to weather in other languages too?
That would be an interesting thing to find out. Yeah.
I also think it would be interesting thinking of like the farmlands, right? Your crops only get watered if you're like in a certain mood, like how would you then have to regulate seasonal crops to make sure that the economy doesn't fall apart?
Oh no!
You have to hire people specifically based on how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
no.
yeah.
You know what would happen is they would start like funeral processions would have to run through farmland. They'd be like every time someone died, they'd have to be like, well, it's time to take a trip down through the farm area so that they can get rain.
So they have to put the cemetery on the like opposite the town from the so they have to cross through the farm.
God, every time your son or daughter breaks up with someone, you'd be like, go sit in the
Let's
field.
go for a drive.
Well, go sit out in the field. Go.
Actually, on that
You'll
note,
feel better. Go out there.
Can you imagine, like, if you moved in next door to someone who was like upset all of the time, or like a very crabby person who's always like causing little thunderstorms in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Like that would be a big part of buying and selling homes, is like trying to figure out like, are your neighbors going to give you nice weather or are they going to make it miserable all the time?
You live next to a very angry person.
In about 10 years, you and I are going to have teenagers in the house. Can you imagine what a teenager would be like if their emotions controlled the weather?
Mm-hmm.
So what Jim said transitions really well to the next thing I wanted to ask, which is we associate anger probably with storms, as you're suggesting here. But when it is thunderstorming, it is easier for me to be calm and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, like, and again, that's a personal thing, but...
Well, I don't necessarily know that it is, because if you go on YouTube, if you're looking for, like, sleepy time stuff, it's all, like, rolling thunderstorms and rain.
Yeah. Or, like, white noise machines are, like, they sound like rain. Some of them have, like, pre-recorded, like, ocean waves or thunderstorms, things like that.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's so common, and maybe this is just, again, a me experience, but from what I've seen for those relaxation things, like there's rainforest ones and, you know, the rolling storms at the ocean, like moving water tends to be a very calming sound. And when I was little, we would always go and like watch storms come in. Like, I don't associate that with bad emotions.
Mm-mm.
Right. But we, like, as a culture, think if somebody, like Jim just said, a child throwing a temper tantrum would be like a storm.
Yeah.
And I understand the connection because a storm is destructive. There's so much specificity to, like, if every person had a weather forecast tailored to their mood, like, we could just be completely wrong about what would actually happen depending on their mood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What if it gets, like, blazingly hot when you throw a tantrum, like 106 degrees?
I would buy that, you see.
Yeah. And the other thing, and on a similar kind of note, you know, what if someone's happy is the thunderstorm?
Yeah.
Everyone would be like, oh, happy is sunny. Well, maybe not. Maybe someone's happiest at the thunderstorm, or like their happy generates the thunderstorm.
Yeah.
So then you'd have like conflicting, all kinds of different conflicting weathers based on the same emotions. You get a group of people together and they're all happy, but they might have 35 different types of weather.
I think that's a really fair point, because how would this affect people's daily lives? Like, I choose to say, if you're happy, the weather is going to be what you are comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that if it is a group of people who don't agree with, like, they're not comfortable in the same temperature or whatever, it's going to cause people to shift mood very rapidly.
Oh.
You know, it's funny. I'm on Healthline.com on an article about how the weather affects people's moods, essentially. Yeah, like they're like, oh yeah, like depending on your personal preference. So like if you love summer, obviously your mood improves in warm weather. If you don't like summer, it declines in there and it goes up in sort of like the fall and winter months. But the following weather conditions are associated with low and high moods for most people. So this is like a generalization.
Right.
Low mood is temperatures below 50 or above 70, high humidity, precipitation, and fog, where high moods are in between 50 and 70, high atmospheric pressure and clear skies and sunlight. I mean, like, to be fair, people need sun.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, if you spend all day indoors and you don't get, like, that's why they're like, go outside, go for a walk, feel better, your mental health.
Get that vitamin D.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point. People need sun because we've been talking about, like, most of us saying we like rain, but that's kind of like nature needs to have all of these things. So like
Yeah.
when you run into like farmers love it when it rains because it waters the crops, and people like sun because plants can grow. So we need all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like emotions in general tend to be such wide swings in either direction, like regardless of if you're an adult or a teenager or a child. There's so many like swings of emotion within a 1 hour period. What's the barometer for like when I'm feeling like a little bit sad, like, oh, like there's a
Right.
dead opossum on the road? Is it going to start raining or thundering or whatever? Or
Yeah.
if I'm like deeply, deeply sad, is it only then going to trigger? And then like what's in between?
It
Yeah.
makes me think of like if you have a baby who has the ability to control the weather or something, like exactly what we're talking about, and you notice that it's like I don't know, earthquake isn't weather, but to illustrate my point, you notice the ground starts to shake, so all of a sudden you start jingling keys in front of the baby to cheer it up.
Yeah.
Like, can you stop it? Can you?
Yeah.
Can I roll back to something you said earlier, Aly?
Yes.
You
I permit
you
you.
had thank you, appreciate it. Yep. You had said you wondered if there are language or like lexicon allusions in other languages, right?
Yeah.
So on sort of a tangential thought off of that, the cycles of the seasons are pretty uniform throughout different cultures, right?
Mhm.
Like we get like when we think of winter as things sort of as death and dying, spring is rebirth, summer as like generic, like, grow, and then like fall is sort of the decline of like right before everything dies, right? So
Harvest.
Right.
Harvest, yeah, everything that has grown is now harvested or dies.
Harvest and death.
Yeah.
But like you have in Mexico Dia de los Muertos that happens in November, and you have like in these Celtic religions like the Yule time where everything is dead, and because it's snowy and things can't thrive or survive in this weather. And then you have like all these areas that have these spring festivals, and like, especially again Celtic again is what I keep thinking of, like
Mhm.
like spring, like rebirth festivals and all that stuff. And like even though it's not necessarily a linguistic thing, we see different types of weather or different types of seasons in really similar patterns throughout different early cultures from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that have developed pretty organically because spring is spring, right? Like spring is when things start to be alive. So it kind of makes sense that across different cultures that would be kind of a celebration of rebirth or life or whatever.
Right.
And that kind of makes me think, if this was a worldwide phenomenon of people's moods affecting the weather, I'm starting to wonder if that would have caused humanity to associate weather differently than we do.
Oh, yeah.
I also am curious, like, if you're cultures that are closer to the equator, since the weather and seasonal stuff, well, weather is pretty dramatic. Seasons are not as dramatic closer to the equator. Like, if they have a slightly different breakdown of like, well, it's monsoon season or it's dry season or it's, it's not necessarily the 4 seasons as we know it, but more of the like broad weather pattern.
And I mean, that I think also might have an effect on places that have typically seen things like, for example, Tornado Alley, where a large percentage of all the tornadoes on Earth are, in the central United States. And if
it's a very angry region.
Right. But then again, on the other hand, because I'm also thinking, like, is there still do weather phenomenon still happen on a normalized basis?
Oh,
so
good. Fair.
like in that case, then would there be more tornadoes because people hear there might be a tornado watch and then they get scared and then it feeds back into the storm system of, rain and weather and lightning and thunder, and it feeds into, and it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy of tornadoes or hurricanes, things like that.
Well, there's one we haven't touched on. What do you associate fear with?
Oh boy, I would
Wind.
think that would have to be tornadoes.
Wind?
Yeah,
Okay,
wind and
okay.
tornadoes.
I was thinking that's when it gets all foggy and
Ooh.
Silent Hill.
Like-
Oh yeah,
yeah, very silent, huh? But that's our reaction to the weather, right? So
I was gonna say, one of the other things I was thinking about was just like the idea that if you are trying to pretend you're not upset about something, then it's going to be a lot harder because everyone's going to be like, why are you making that thunder, man? What seems to be the problem?
Yeah.
What is the weather we associate with passive aggression?
Maybe that's wind.
That's wind.
Passive.
No, that's just
aggression.
regular aggression, actually. Hail?
I feel like passive aggression is a longer game. It's like
It's a long.
it's like a typical like in between spring and summer and in between summer and fall. Like it's
overcast.
It's
Oh.
overcast.
it's 50 degrees in the morning, and then at noon it's 98 degrees.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then
No,
at
I buy
5
that
o'clock
for
in the
sure.
afternoon, it's back down to like 40 degrees. So or it's like in the springtime when you're like, oh, like it snowed in the morning and now it's 70 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I wore long pants today, and now it's 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Another one I was thinking of for passive aggression is actually like in the summer when it's overcast and it's thundering, but it's not raining and you can't see any lightning. It's just like, oh, it's going to storm, and then it never does.
No storm,
Ooh,
but
Just
it's
like
keeping
what
it to
Aly said
itself.
earlier.
Ooh, heat lightning.
Oh, yeah.
Heat lightning
yeah.
is passive aggressive for sure.
Heat lightning is
You guys
passive
ever
aggressive.
seen? I think it's happened a few times here, but the snow lightning.
Oh, thunder snow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thunder
yeah, yeah.
snow. It's
Thunder
so
snow.
cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like an old AC/DC song.
Yeah.
Thunder snow.
Thunder snow. Well, it would sound like every other AC/DC song.
Yes. So we were talking about how like the weather affects people's moods and stuff like that. But I was thinking about like, everybody associates warmth and sunniness and stuff like that with being happy. But what is the happiest country in the world?
Denmark.
Denmark, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Denmark. I looked it up. Denmark's median temperature is 46 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, that sounds
Ugh.
wonderful.
Denmark statistically has a February that gets down to 32 degrees or 0 degrees Celsius. And August, the warmest, gets up to about 60. But like Denmark in general is a little bit cloudier, a little bit windier, receives more rainfall than the rest of the country on the west coast. Annual rainfall in Denmark averages 24 inches of precipitation a year. It's cold and it snows a lot and it's like kind of rainy in Denmark, yet they're the happiest people on earth.
I get that.
Maybe it's because they figured out what was rotten in the state of Denmark and they got rid of it.
Oh,
no,
there
cut
it
that.
is. No, that's really interesting because I mean, like, again, I can only like the personal experience that I have is like it's so cloudy here that it makes the winters harder because we don't get as much sun during the summer. We have been really, really blessed with a very sunny summer, and like it has been very nice this year. But it's not always. There are a lot of days where it's still hot but cloudy.
Yeah.
And like
yeah.
those are the worst. It's that for me, my two most negative weathers are really hot but overcast, or cold and wet but not snowing.
Yeah. So February.
Yes.
Yeah, the average day in February.
Yeah.
It's
Bad
funny.
news on the
My least
doorstep.
favorite and most favorite temperatures, times of year, weather have a lot to do with cultural things too. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I love fall. I love the colors. I love the smells. I love flavors. I love like everything about what happens at that time of year. And that I think makes me love the cooler air and like what was coming. I love December and I hate January.
Oh yeah.
And they are not different in terms of temperature or weather, but they are they are so different culturally.
Yeah.
Christmas and holidays and lights and fun and festivities,
and family and excitement and presents
and in
and
January
really wild
you
things.
put it all away, and then it's still snowing.
yeah.
But now you have to drive
months.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now all of the snow is gray because everybody has driven over it and it's turned to slush, and it's no longer white and pretty and pristine. It's now just like this gray colored stuff I have to walk through before I go to work.
You know, it would have been really cool to, I mean, there's no way we can do this. We know nobody from Australia, but like to get the perspective of that exact thing you just said, but like from the Southern
I
Hemisphere
know people
perspective.
from Australia.
We'll get them on call.
I want to ask, I can try. I want to ask where Justin was in the past few winters where you had snow straight through December through January.
That's true. That hasn't happened in a good 15 years.
That is true. It's been a minute. We had snow at one point before, although I do remember being at my mother-in-law's house, I think last year, and it being like 60 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And Ashley's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "It's Christmas tomorrow and it's not snowing."
Yeah.
It's like,
It was like 70 Christmas week or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it was
real
stupid.
temperate.
I remember trick-or-treating in blizzards.
Yeah.
And I want that.
Not
That's
to be
why.
old, but yeah.
Yeah. Not to be.
Jim and I drove to California in 2016.
Yeah.
Was that? And it was in October, and it was snowing. Like we had trouble getting to the airport. It was snowing. So I was wearing a winter coat, and we drove to California. And a week later, we flew from California, where it was 90 degrees on a cold day, back to freezing cold temperatures in Pittsburgh in October.
Yeah, it was like 50.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that was 10 years ago, but still,
Still?
8
It's
years
too
ago. It was
long.
8 years
I think
ago.
we've lost the point like a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think that we need to do like another calendar reset because I feel like we're off, right? I feel like
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
off our season.
Oh, I've felt
we need
that
to
way for a
shift
while.
everything
Yeah.
back a little bit.
That's like I was reading like technically September is meteorological fall. Like
Yeah.
fall
Oh,
doesn't
yeah,
start
I
till the
read about that.
21st, but like as far as meteorology goes, it is now fall. And I think that's more practical for like a human standpoint. Like who cares when the vernal equinox is because that doesn't matter to our day-to-day lives. I'd rather know when it starts to be more cold than hot.
Because that affects agriculture and like what activities we can do.
Yeah.
Whereas just knowing, I mean, that comes from astronomists wanting to have an answer, whether it's useful or not, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like the equinox is important, but it's not fall, you know?
Right.
Although, to be fair, December, I feel like, is more fall than winter at this point, so.
It is September 4th, year of our Lord 2024, and my wife decorated the entire house in Halloween decorations today. It is
for her.
fall, Jim.
Well,
Yeah.
you're late.
I just said it's fall. I was agreeing.
I know.
Yeah, but it's not, or the equinox hasn't happened, right?
No, the
And-
equinox
Yes.
has not.
Pumpkin spice lattes are at Starbucks.
Yeah,
so-
I've already had like 3.
Pumpkin spice lattes were in Starbucks in July.
That's fair.
Let's all go get our pumpkin spice lattes and come back for the second question. Sound good?
PSL, let's go.
All right. I'm not drinking coffee at 8:04 at night.
I didn't even talk about seasonal affective disorder, which I had pulled up here just in case.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to. It's sad.
It's too depressing and it's too close to home. I don't want to talk about my average December day.
Yeah. Actually, there was one last thing I did want to bring up, and it's the idea of like, if the weather phenomenon is a little bit bigger than just like one person, if there's like a consensus around the city, it's like, oh, you know, the east side is very happy today, but you know, the waterfront is extremely miserable.
It's like you can predict you do mood predictions instead of weather predictions.
Yeah.
You know what would be kind of fun about that though is you'd see in real time like which communities were happiest, and
Oh, okay.
Like, you'd almost, like, I would be willing to bet middle-class families are super happy, and extremely wealthy and extremely impoverished families are probably all very upset all the time. An interesting sociological experiment to be like, oh, like, we can tell how happy neighborhoods are just by looking at the weather.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I had to do this, but I do think I have to actually say we need to move on. Sorry, everybody.
It's fine.
Has it been a while, and didn't you expect that from this particular group?
There is a lot more to say, listeners, as Justin and Aly have painfully reminded me. But we do have to move on, so please let us know what you thought about this question. How does the mood affect your weather, and how does the weather affect your mood? In the meantime, question 2 this week. If you could go on a field trip with Ms. Frizzle, where would you go?
Oh, man.
Now my introduction
I'm
makes
so
sense.
ready for this question because...
Me too.
Because my 3-year-old is all in on the Magic School Bus. We watch at least an episode a day.
Is that the original, or there was that remake?
We've been watching the original. I forgot about the remake. I watched the first season of that. It was fine.
Okay.
I mean, that makes it sound like it was bad. It was okay, but it was like, I don't know, there's the charm of Lily Tomlin being Ms. Frizzle that it's like, that was my childhood.
The new art direction leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, I don't need it animated in Flash, that's for sure.
I also wonder, because I've thought these things about children's television in recent years, and like, I think it was Justin who pointed out quite a long time ago that like, when we were kids, the shows were tailored to us, and now we are adults and the shows are tailored to kids. So do we really have like an informed opinion about that? I don't know.
I mean,
I guess.
To be fair, when we were kids, the shows were tailored to us, and now that we're adults, the shows are tailored to us and our kids.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fair.
Think about what's popular again. Like, Ninja Turtles are back. Batman's back.
Yeah.
Magic School Bus is back.
Well, pop culture is cyclical.
And they're all making adult jokes that are geared towards millennials because we're the ones that have little kids. So,
Yeah.
Bluey is huge, and I've heard that that's more for parents than it is for the kids that it's like actually projected for.
Can
I've
confirm.
never watched it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a show that an adult can watch and still really like without having the child in the room with them.
Okay.
Agreed. Or like Spidey and His Amazing Friends hired Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy to do all the music. And I'm like, if that wasn't tailored specifically for me, I'm not really sure who it was tailored for.
It's so catchy. But yeah, so like I'm excited about this question because I've watched every episode of Magic School Bus over the last month. All 52.
Nice. It's been a while since I watched any, I think. At least a year since I saw an episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have always thought of this as my like Magic School Bus trip. And it's to go inside a motherboard for a computer, which maybe they did one. But I've always looked at my motherboard inside of my computer and been like, that looks like a little city.
Yeah.
Like it has all these different like pathways.
Did you ever watch Reboot?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's what that made me think of.
Yeah, very similar. But like I still remember so vividly like the first time we cracked open our Dell computer to replace the graphics card. And just like looking at the pieces like, oh, this is like a little brain in here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like that would be such a good field trip to like shrink down to a little bolt of electricity and like zip around inside the motherboard to see what all the components do.
Yeah. That would be cool.
I would love to just have them turn into like data and move through a circuit board or something. Like, because I look at a circuit board and I'm like, this is magic.
Yeah.
I don't know how this does anything.
Electricity is just magic.
Yeah, it's probably electrical currents, but I don't know.
It's wild because, like, academically, it's like, oh yeah, the computer thinks by switching things on and off, but the part that gets really incredible to me is that these switches are so small that you can't see them without like some kind of really powerful microscope.
Yeah,
and so like at that point, because it is not visible with even like a decent microscope, you have to have like an electron microscope. It's like, oh, this is starting to become borderline magic to me. Like academically, I know how it works, but man, I'd like to be beamed in there by Miss Frizzle so that I could run around and take a look.
Yeah, I want to see it big.
This touches on a tangential note that I had written down, but like a thing that I think is interesting about the Magic School Bus is that Ms. Frizzle is magic, and she can do basically anything she wants in an effort to demonstrate how physical things work, which is just really fascinating to me.
It's a cool superpower.
Yeah. Educational magic.
One of the things I will say that I love about Ms. Frizzle is that no matter how bad anything is, more often than not, 99% of the time, she's just smiling right through it. It's like, oh yeah, this stomach is going to digest this. Isn't it great? It's so funny.
Can I vocalize something that I hate, but I think is true?
Of course.
I think that Miss Frizzle's superpower is not scientific explanation and actually shrinking things down. I think she has a hallucination field and makes these kids hallucinate what's happening because no one ever gets hurt.
Yeah.
Well, and Arnold took his helmet off in space.
Does she feed them ever?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm thinking she's probably dosing them with psilocybin.
we only see 20 minutes of their school day.
Well, there's actually an episode that may address this in a sense, and the episode is that they have to go to the person who built the bus and have him repair it.
I was thinking about that episode.
And it's not Ms. Frizzle that's magic; it's the bus that's magic. So.
Oh, that's what the name is.
Good point. Yeah,
I feel like she's magic too.
I mean, she can make her earrings do that cool glowing thing, but then they might just be LEDs. I don't know.
I feel like she's like Mary Poppins kind of magic, where it's like, oh, you all think that you need the bus, but really, I did this to teach you a lesson, or something like that.
I think she's a Time Lord.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mind headed with this question. What do I want my thing to be? I am having a lot of trouble narrowing down which moment in history I would want to be there for.
Yeah.
Well, important question. Does it have to be a science-based field trip?
Well, apparently sometime in the early 2000s, they actually did a spin-off book series where it was more like history/social studies. It was just Ms. Frizzle and Arnold in the books. But I guess they did a little spin-off where they did a couple ancient Rome and pyramids and whatnot. So,
well, and to be fair, most of mine would be scientific adjacent. So the first one I was I'd love to be there to witness Howard Carter open King Tut's tomb.
Ooh.
I think that would be cool. Or Kitty Hawk, North Carolina to watch the Wright brothers figure out how planes work. Yeah, stuff there's scientific adjacent, the science of flight is something that they're actively figuring out when they're doing that.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting distinction because I think you should absolutely be able to go there because I agree that would be a scientific thing, at least science history, but they've done stuff about flight, but I definitely know that they went back in time to see dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So where's the line in that case, I guess?
You know what? I would love to go back in time to see. I mean, this is all social sciences, right? So it's anthropology. I'd want to see pre-conquistador South America, pre-colonized South America, before they went around and destroyed everything and built a church over top of it.
That's funny because it's tragic.
Yeah. Yes, pre-Cortez would be really cool because we don't have a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
They literally, the Spanish went down and just steamrolled over everything.
Yeah. I think it'd be really cool to check out what's going on Rapa Nui and what happened before the fall of that civilization and the Moai and the Rongo tablets. And it's what happened there? Because we can't read these tablets.
This is reminding me of when we talked about time tourism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to jump in here because I wanted to say one of my favorite concepts, kind of getting away from the time tourism thing, I guess. One of my favorite concepts that I remember from the original show was when they went into a math book and they went into the baseball field that had no friction.
Yeah.
And while there were so many physics problems with that, which I'm sure were addressed in the post-episode segment. Like, that's the kind of thing that I think I would love to do. If we have, like, this magic at our disposal, I would love to experience things we can only theorize about.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great call.
Oh, there was an episode that we just watched not too long ago where they shrunk down and, like, interacted with molecules. Like,
see, that would be cool.
Yeah, they were building molecules up like bricks to make something, and that would be really, really neat. And the thing I really like about the show is that at the end of the episodes, they always address the fact that it doesn't make any sense. Like, you literally cannot do this thing that we are doing, but we're doing it to show you how it works. We're trying to teach you
the quantum
this.
level can't work.
Yeah, because the people always call in. It's like, you can't shrink a bunch of kids down, right? It's like, yeah, we know that. That's not the point of the show. The point is to teach you.
Well, it's hallucinogenic magic powers.
Yeah, right. There was another one that were very similar where they shrunk down and they saw like a bunch of different microbes and bacteria and whatnot, because it was all about it was actually an episode about how they turn cucumbers into pickles ostensibly, but then it involves bacteria and fungi and all the different like microbes that we don't really talk about because they don't make us sick. Mm-hmm. And that would be another really cool one too, if you want to get real small, is to see that kind of stuff.
Aly and I were talking today about how it's impossible to observe electrons at rest because every time you observe them, it absorbs light and it moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool one to figure out how to, like, if Miss Frizzle can do it, stop an electron.
Yeah.
The kids turn into electrons.
I also feel like, and this is like such a cheesy answer, I think, but to be able to feel like flight. Like, I am not a very good airplane flyer for a lot of reasons, but I feel like if I could turn into a bird, that would be different. That I would love to feel the, like, force under you for flight. Like, have you guys, this is stupid. Have you guys had the dream where you can fly and you can control it, but you feel the, like, kind of pressure when you want to fly? Like, does it feel like that? Is it, like, just a weightless feeling? Like, I want to know the sensation of flight.
I have had this question in my head for so long. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on this show, but like, if you could fly in a Superman or like a hovering kind of fly, not like with wings, would you be comfortable sleeping in the air? Like that, because you wouldn't, because like people have different comfort levels of how firm they like their mattress. But if there's literally like nothing there and you're just supported by being able to hover, I don't know.
That would be a good question for an astronaut. Now, I know they like tie themselves down typically so they don't like float around and bump into things. But I wonder if any of them ever like drifted off while also drifting off.
Right.
I did not mean to make that joke, but as soon as I said drifting off, it's like, there's my low-hanging fruit.
I support it.
Yeah.
I guess it really depends on whether or not it is like an anti-gravity or if it's like Superman can hover. Because like, what is supporting your neck? If you are, so like in space, it's obviously like, well, nothing because there's no gravity. So nothing's
the weight of your head. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's not actually that uncomfortable, but like Superman, what is supporting his neck if he falls asleep?
Those muscles, those traps.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then we get like, this is a different question way down a different rabbit hole, but like, is Superman just weightless, or is Superman, does it take energy to make him fly? Does he have to put forth effort to do it? And
like in Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
Now, speaking of flight, there is one thing that I've seen them have happen to them several times on the show, and that is that they get turned into water and they evaporate. I don't know if that's to anyone's taste.
No, yes.
I think it'd be kind of cool. I kind of want to do the water cycle.
That's also one of Twin Powers.
Oh, yeah.
Bucket of water.
Yeah. I want to ask, because I genuinely don't remember. Do they ever get turned into any like animals? So like they obviously get turned into things that aren't human. But, so what animals do they get turned into?
The one I can think,
bugs at one point.
That I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
I bet probably. The one I was going to mention is there was an episode where they get turned into reptiles, and they have to figure out how to regulate their body temperature so they don't fall asleep.
Oh, okay.
There was
good.
also an episode where they get turned into a bunch of like marine life, like mussels and crabs, and like a lot of like shore, like tidal pool kind of stuff.
That's like the food chain episode.
That might be
Or
a
maybe
different
not.
episode.
That might be a different one.
Boy, I can't remember. Yeah, they've been turned into animals a couple times.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because it's been a long time for me, but I was kind of always thinking they were more like on a field trip. They were observing things more than actually participating in it, but I
Mhm.
guess I remembered that wrong.
I think it's kind of uncommon that they actually turn into something like an animal. I always liked the ones where they were observing animals doing their thing, but they were still human. Because there's the episode, it's really early on, actually, it might be like episode 2 or 3, where they go and they just observe the desert biome. And
Mhm.
Phoebe's like, we got to get these animals water. And it's like, actually, the desert has tons of water if you know where to look. So it's kind of a cool episode. I don't need to go to the desert. I've been to the desert.
I'm okay with not going to the
Yeah.
desert. I'm also okay with not going to space.
Oh, see, that's the one I want to do.
That's the one you want to.
That was my top answer.
That's your top answer? Okay.
Well, there was an episode. So I do want to see the solar system. Solar system's pretty cool. But there was an episode that I think is maybe in season 3 or 4, where they go out and they look at the life cycle of stars. So they look at a baby star, they look at like a middle-aged star like our sun, and then they like sit through a supernova. And it's like, I want to sit through a supernova. Like, sign me up, man. I want to see a supernova from Earth, but if I get to go out and like see one inside of a magic bus, then please.
I think that's what happened to
Goku.
H.P. Lovecraft. I think he went into space with Miss Frizzle and came back and was
I
like,
didn't
"This is
expect
what I
that.
saw."
Mm.
And it's terrifying because I'm on Derek's side on this one. I don't need to be in space.
I don't,
I'm
need to
good.
be, I don't need to be there. Yeah, that was like, this was not me as is typical being like, oh, space is boring. I'm Derek. But
I've never known you to sound like that.
yeah, well, that's my impression of someone doing an impression of me, I guess. I don't know. But that was more of a genuine, like, everything that we know about space, like, unless you actually are an astronaut, like, going to space, you have to go to specific places to see things.
Yeah.
It's one thing to, like, want to go to, say, Pluto to experience what the environment of Pluto is like.
And take your helmet off.
And take your helmet off, yeah. But it's another to just say, I want to see, like, the whole solar system. It was like, okay, but at some point you're just looking at it just like we're doing now.
Yeah. But it's neat to be up close.
I'd like to be weightless. Like, I think that would be
cool.
I can tell you right now, if I went to space with Miss Frizzle, I would come back needing to up my therapy sessions because I would just be like,
yeah.
oh my God, everything is so tiny. Nothing really matters anymore.
Would you take your helmet off to freeze solid, though?
I don't know.
That's what Arnold did.
I would have an existential crisis and maybe not be able to be a human being again for a while. But
Yeah. There was at the beginning of that episode where they go to Venus and they all get off the bus and they're wearing their like spacesuits and stuff. And one of the kids offhanded was like, "Oh, look, it's really cloudy. Maybe it's gonna rain." And it's like, "No, it's too hot." And Miss Frizzle is like, "Also, it's sulfuric acid." And everyone's like freaking out, and she's just smiling in the corner. It's like, that's the energy that I wanna experience. It's just something terrible and awful and dangerous, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's just yeah.
That's fair.
Same with like when they got digested. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, the hydrochloric acid of the stomach. This is great. It's very exciting. Or when they were inside of Ralphie and that was his immune system was trying to kill them, and she's like, well, they'll have to catch us first, and she like revs the engine and drives off. She knows exactly what she's doing.
She's wild.
I have one more thought that I jotted down that I want to just put on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of another follow-up question. And it is kind of like, what are the limitations involved? And the main reason I specify this is They definitely went back in time to see dinosaurs. And that was allegedly giving the children the chance to observe dinosaurs, which we haven't and can't do. So is it possible for the Magic School Bus to like explore uncharted territory like that? In which case, considering the big disclaimer, considering the kids always end up coming home perfectly safe, could we explore a black hole?
Oh.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
It's magic.
It's magic.
Yeah.
The bus.
That starts getting into the question of like, what are the physical laws that the bus has to obey without question, of which there are very few.
I think there are none. I don't know.
Because there are some times where the bus can't just come in and save them.
Sure.
So it's like, well, which laws apply? And it's also a case-by-case episode, depending on who wrote the episode.
It's the plot.
Yeah,
they must
exactly.
obey the plot.
I think there are also a handful of rules that, like, maybe the bus doesn't necessarily need to adhere to, but just are. Like, they go back in time a couple times, but they don't change time.
Yeah.
So they observe things that happened in history, but they really like don't have the ability to like they couldn't go back in time and like kidnap Hitler so that he never becomes Hitler.
Yeah.
You know, like they can't do that.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
not
a
something the bus can
predestination
do.
paradox.
Yeah.
Because it's a hallucination.
It's a hallucination. I mean, I think, yeah. But on that note, like I would be more inclined, and that's the reason I cited the dinosaur episode specifically, because I would say I would buy it if it was like the bus's power is limited by current scientific discovery or something like that. Like they can observe things.
Okay, yeah.
But like in the going back and seeing the dinosaurs, they actually went and like in the logic of the show saw real live dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think another thing that's worth mentioning is that the books are somewhat different than the show in that actually it's weird because like the first 2 or 3 books, it is unclear whether or not these things are actually happening. But then as the series progresses in the books, it becomes more and more clear these are things that are actually happening. And it's occasionally involves outsiders. And there is one point, the book where they go back and check out the dinosaurs, they bring back video footage that everyone just says, oh, these are great special effects.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of workaround.
Whereas in the TV show, it's kind of interesting because the kids are actively conspiring to make sure other people don't find out about the bus.
Right.
Because there's an episode that we just watched like 2 or 3 days ago where the bus breaks down and is getting towed, and they have to go through the exhaust system to figure out what's wrong with the bus. And then at the end, they're like, well, we can't let the tow truck guy know the bus is magic, so they have to like, you know, pull his hat down over his eyes and like annoy him and distract him and stuff.
I like the idea that the episodic educational children's cartoon could eventually evolve into having this like real deep lore behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's real things that Miss Frizzle just won't tell the kids because like we just have to keep them quiet.
Yeah. Also, Ms. Frizzle may specifically choose places that are fun and interesting. So like, you know, she's not going to go kidnap Hitler because that's just a kind of depressing place to be.
Today, kids, we're going to Nazi Germany. You're gonna have a good time.
I guess it depends what grade level they're in. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like if you're teaching juniors in high school and Miss Frizzle all of a sudden becomes a high school teacher, you might want to go to Nazi occupied Germany to like make a point.
Yeah.
If the whole point is, or like if the whole thing is like we can't change what happens, we can observe what happens.
Yeah. In the show reboot, Ms. Frizzle is actually, I can't remember if she is a professor, but she has her PhD, which is why she stopped teaching elementary school.
Yeah.
She would make an amazing asset to a museum that specifically caters to like a very specific topic. It would suck, but can you... And when I say it means it would suck, I mean like people would go there and leave super depressed. But like, can you imagine if she worked at the Holocaust Museum and was like, "Let me show you what was happening. Let's go back in time and see what happened here."
Yeah.
Maybe a happier one would be like the Native North American Museum would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
The Spy Museum.
Actually go back before
the Spy Museum.
colonization. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, yeah. Like, let's see what it looks like here. Or the Natural History Museum. The Museum of Aeronautics, the Space and Air Museum.
Yeah.
To, like, show you how flight works and stuff. Like, she would make a great Smithsonian employee.
Oh, yeah.
What you're kind of pitching is like a grown-up spin-off, going more in depth in some of these topics.
Cosmos, but hosted by Ms. Frizzle instead.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that wouldn't be a terrible idea for a show basis.
I don't think so.
No, it wouldn't.
I think a lot of adults could use that kind of like refresher on science and history that is easily digestible in like a 30-minute block.
Right. Or even not even just like a refresher, but like here's all the things that are different from when you were in second grade, like feathers on dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah.
Pluto's not a planet.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then it would get canceled.
Yeah.
People would hate it.
Yeah. She'd be like, "Pluto's not a planet." And they'd be like, "I hate you." And she'd be like, "It's a dwarf planet, and here's why." And they'd be like, "No, it's not."
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Like, what happened to you, Miss Frizzle? You used to be
Miss Frizzle
cool.
sold out to Big Planet.
It's a big...
There was one other place I think it'd be fun to go. Actually, there's one other place I want to mention, and then I have a question for the group, because I've noticed so far a trend. But the other place I think it'd be cool to check out are like the mass extinctions. And seeing like specifically a couple of the really, really old ones, seeing what really happened. And sort of in that same vein, being able to watch like continental drift on fast forward and like seeing the continents come apart and come back together. And that'd be cool. Like, you can watch animations of that all day long, but in the end, it's just like, oh, that's just a guess of what we think it looks like. But seeing where all these pieces fit together, that would be so cool.
What about a field trip where they go back to like Pangea or something?
Yeah.
And they get to just like stand or walk around in one little area, but they are experiencing life in like 20 million times speed or something.
Yeah.
So they like can watch that happening around them. That'd be cool.
That reminds me of the at the end of the dinosaur book. There's this part where Ms. Frizzle goes right to the very last moments of the Cretaceous, and she talks about this asteroid, and like a little word cloud comes out of the bus, and it's like, "Ms. Frizzle, are we going to leave before the asteroid hits?" And I could just imagine one of the kids just like raising a nice polite hand and be like, "I better ask this question."
Just to be sure.
This is an important, this is an important question.
I mean,
the
extinctions would be cool, but even like going back in time to watch in fast forward motion, like the Hopi Indians come to America, like the Hopi tribe, because there's that big story about how scientists for years kept telling them they went over a Great Land Bridge, and they kept going, "No, like we went across the ocean," and they kept telling them like their mythology, and then they did DNA tests on Hopi tribes, and they're like most closely related to people from the Philippines, like super closely related genetically to people who live in the Philippines, which means they didn't come over a land bridge in Canada. But to watch something like that would be cool too. In fast forward.
Yeah. I think it would also be neat to see like the time period right before the Cambrian explosion, where we have a bunch of fossilized animals that are not anything we can really parse because they were all soft bodied. So what they look like are sand dollars, but they were clearly not sand dollar shaped. They'd just been smashed flat into whatever shape they are now. So finding out what those actually looked like would be cool.
They're like little jelly bellies.
Yeah. But I do want to wrap back around to the question I wanted to posit for the group. And that is, I noticed I don't think that any of us really chose anything super claustrophobic. Like none of us said, "Oh, the digestive system," or, you know, the blood vessels, or like, to give an example from the show, the inside of like a carburetor or something like that. And I just wanted to know if that was because none of us want to be in a very small enclosed space, or it's just because we have other interests beyond that.
Yes.
For me, it's the latter, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, well, Ally's idea about the computer kind of hit that spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because realistically, if I go inside a car's carburetor, like it's a good demonstration of how it works on a visual level, but I don't really actually need to experience that myself to learn anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I was thinking like, oh, it'd be fun to see the digestive system, but then I don't know, I got like a weird, like, I don't think I want to be inside of a small space like that, even if I am much smaller still.
I mean, that disclaimer about the kids always coming back completely unharmed, if that is understood, that would maybe change my mind with a few things. Like, I do think it would be interesting to see the immune system working from like a cellular perspective.
Yeah.
Because we always see cells on like microscope slides, and it's very like 2-dimensional kind of. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see like a 3D paramecium.
Yeah.
In the old show, when Ralphie is sick, and it turns out that Ralphie is the field trip, because they go in and they go through his like bloodstream and stuff. Maybe I'm misremembering. Isn't there a point where they're like, we have to get out of Ralphie because we're going to get big in 30 minutes or whatever? Like, aren't they rushing to get out of him because they're going to grow again?
I know he sneezes them out.
Not that I recall.
Okay, maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe I'm mixing that up.
That was a Rugrats episode or something.
I think, yeah. I've definitely seen that, but I don't think it was
that's definitely a trope that I'm familiar with. I don't think it was Magic School Bus,
I mean, going inside of a person would freak me out because I wouldn't want to get big inside the person.
Fantastic
That's
voyage.
true, yeah. Those episodes are back-to-back. The one they go inside of Arnold's digestive tract.
Really?
And then the next episode, they go inside of Ralphie.
Oh.
Huh.
I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff going on inside of there.
Yeah. It's interesting that they're back-to-back.
I get like real kind of squeaked out about the idea of like going inside the body. I don't know why. Like, because you would be really tiny, so it like wouldn't feel like you were inside the body. But like, I don't need to know how that stuff works. I feel the same way. Like, oh, let's go visit that biggest star, whichever one it is now, because it changes every like 3 months.
Oh yeah,
I'm not interested in that. It's too big, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it'd be, well, here's the thing I think would be interesting, because like as you approach it, does it feel any bigger than a regular star? Because like,
I don't know, I've never seen one.
As you get close, it's going to start small and then it's going to get to be big, but then you're not really going to have any sense of how far away you are.
I guess that's true. I still don't like the idea of it.
Yeah, it's a bad thing that it exists.
How much closer could you get to it though? Because you'd still burn up when you were.
It would be cooler though, because they're red stars and their surface temperature is cooler.
So a little bit.
Plus the Magic School Bus did pointedly survive a supernova.
Well, so
it's
magic.
It's fine. You can get right up in its biz.
I guess it also depends on how big or small you grow, because like you could potentially grow to different sizes. So like you could go to like the smallest star in the world and the biggest star in the world, and from your perspective, it could be the same size.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Miss Frizzle's an icon, and I wish I was her. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, there's a lot more we could say about both of our questions, so let us know if you could go on a field trip with Ms. Frizzle, how would that affect your weather? Depends on the field trip, I guess.
There's an episode about that. There's 2 episodes about that.
Okay, well, go watch those episodes. And if you have any thoughts about that or anything else we talked about on this episode, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, and you can comment on our blog, and you can like us on Facebook, and you can tweet @vaguelysci. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from the audience, like the person who's listening right now. Yeah, you're listening to us. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, all the other great places that cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
Is it just me, or is that a really good idea?
Oh, yeah. Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. The weather's changing, so you need a long sleeve shirt, and we've got them.
We do. Thank you to Justin and Aly for being our guests this week.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah.
I still haven't been paid for any of these appearances.
To this day.
And some say, Justin hasn't been paid to this very day. You can still hear him whining about it on a cold summer's day. I don't know. Yeah, for Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
I'm Aly.
And I am Bigfoot's best friend, Justin.
Woo!
Mhm.
And I knew I should have stayed home today.
You are home. We're all home, Derek.
Toodaloo, everyone.
That was a reference to the Magic School Bus.
Oh, I dropped my keyboard key that I was fiddling with. And it's dark in here.
There's our stinger.
No!
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.
Yep.